It is 11:31 at the moment. And so the spring fire is spreading now that the temperatures are growing. The winds are extreme. They've been described as spiraling. So we're up to 25,000 acres burned. It was just an hour or two ago that I uploaded a video stating it to be 14,000 acres. Many structures have been lost overnight. For those that have been watching my channel for some time, welcome new listeners. I did some interviews in Costilla County in the Sangredo Cristo mountain range area with Daryl Carter. Check out the Man on the Mountain series where we talk about Gnostic understanding, spirituality. He's okay. He's out of state. He sold his property, and so he is no longer there. He is safe. He's heard that the evacuation center at Fort Garland is overwhelmed. There are neighbors of his, people that live near his old property, and they're okay. So not everyone's property, not everyone's structure has burned down. It sounds like this started a little bit higher up. Let me read to you specifically what it says here from KKTV.com. It says that the first fire sparked south of Highway 160 near mile marker 268, or the fire first sparked there Wednesday afternoon. That's 48 hours ago, and it's ballooned since that time. He's concerned about his own property if the fire does reach there in just that general area because of all the different layers of pine needles. And that's something that we're seeing throughout Colorado, and there's different theories as to what could be causing that, and or the drought, and or the changes to the climate, but we're dealing with a lot of dead trees. We're dealing with a lot of beetle kill all throughout Colorado and neighboring states. Now, the firefighters consider themselves to be chasing the fire versus battling the fire, and that's not going to change until weather conditions change. Now, there was another fire that started this morning in the general area somewhere else in Colorado, and it started as a result of lightning. There were multiple lightning strikes, by the way, in other counties in Colorado to the west of Costilla County, where their county reported multiple fires started from lightning, which is not typical. And we're talking about rural areas, we're talking about forested areas, we're talking about public land, we're talking about private land. And with that comes the difficulty in getting in and fighting the fires, and in some circumstances even being aware of the fires if no one's even there in that particular area. If it's conserved land, if it's protected land, and this is a point that needs to be brought up here and there, who's to report on the fire when it's in a early stage? So I'm going to be providing information little by little throughout the day. I'll be coming back. Please subscribe if you're new. I think that these are, whether we're looking at this or other natural disasters, these are situations where we shouldn't just panic. We should be learning. We should be learning also, what do we need? You know what I'm missing? I'm missing the right mask. What if a loved one was in an area and we couldn't evacuate to another area to where the air was better? Right now, as we speak, it's an issue of air quality, not just the actual fire. It's the smoke. It's the smoke in the lungs. And so there's a lot of different gas masks out there, and there's various other things that somebody may want to have, like a fire extinguisher. It may not be able to stop a large fire. It may be able to prevent a small fire from going into a large fire. So there's various different things that we need to think about. One of the things that I'm thinking about is some sort of a mask and what would be worth the money. Let me know. Right? I'm personally interested in it. If you want to help me get a mask, let me know as well. Because right now these are very difficult economic times, and I'm staying home more often than normal. But it is possible that at any moment in time, I may have to evacuate if the fire comes knocking at our door here. And that's possible. I think they've done a decent job of staying on top of the fires locally. I think they have some resources other counties may not. Like more money for more fuel for more time up in the air. We're talking about the planes that can spot things for miles. And so there's been heavy plane activity in this particular county because in some areas there's a lot of money invested in certain areas. And other areas seem to be a little bit more drier than this county. I mean, this county is dry and other areas are dry, but some areas are drier than others. And if you look at the whole state of Colorado, yes, there's a very large red zone, but it's degrees of red, it's degrees of severity. And some areas have a little bit more green. Other areas, the effects of the drought are more acutely seen, felt. And even the tensions between the off-gridders, if you will, and those that wanted the land use codes upheld, a lot of that was a trickle off from resource depletion, water tables, water levels. Now, the legalization of marijuana, for those that didn't know, there was a lot of tensions over that. Over the legalization of marijuana, people being very concerned about the future because marijuana needs water. And even if someone wasn't growing marijuana, doesn't matter. Just the primal concern of resource depletion has been on the minds of people for a number of years. It's just important that we don't fall into these habits of blaming innocent people for larger systemic problems and issues. Last story, and then I'll pause, gather more information for you, and then come back. There are multiple fires at the same time. But there's two main fires that are the largest. So I just reported to you that the fire has grown to 25,000. That's Costilla County. We look over to the western part, the western slope, the western southwest area of Colorado, and we find ourselves looking at a fire that has burned up to 41,000 acres called the 416 fire. And the National Weather Service in Grand Junction, which is one of the largest towns, by the way, in the western part of Colorado. Let us know if you're listening in the Grand Junction area to this YouTube channel. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear from those on the western slope region of the state of Colorado. We're hearing from a lot of people in Denver. We know what's going on with the people in Costilla County. We're looking to hear from the people on the southwestern Four Corners, even Arizona. I guess there's a new fire in Utah. There's a whole new fire in Utah. So this is something that seems to be spreading from the western corners. And it's concerning because the fires aren't concentrated in one spot. They're if you type in Colorado fire map, and you'll see the 3-4 main fires. Another one's called the Burrow Fire. And another one is in and around a golf course or something called it's possible Grants Pass is the name of it. But the 416 fire has been burning for some time, and the combination of fires creates obvious pollution that the people are breathing. And this is something for those of us that live in these fire regions need to take into consideration. So I'm open to your feedback on maybe a mask that I need to immediately, like today, purchase or somehow acquire. Of course, there are basic things that we need to be able to do for ourselves when the fire is close. I mean, I think I'm in a safe enough situation right now to where I don't need to wear a bandana around my face. I mean, it's not that close. But it comes and goes, and people are breathing in the smoke in major cities like Walsenburg, in major cities like Colorado Springs. If you look at the plume, the travel of the actual fire from Costilla County. And so it does go from left to right, but also think about on a larger level, if Los Angeles was attacked by China tomorrow. For those of you that are listening to the sound of my voice for updates on what's happening in Colorado, you need to also think about big time emergencies. I mean, these should get you thinking, study the plume, study the flow of wind, and understand we're just talking about a freaking fire right now. What if our nation was at war? You need to think about these things. And I think people in Colorado shouldn't just take their beautiful backdrop for granted, whether they were born here or they moved here and they got a lot of money. Doesn't matter to me. I think that our world is changing really quick, and whether or not someone survives certain things may come down to where they're located. If they're able to escape, if they're able to be quick enough on their feet and not panic. And we see examples of what panicking looks like. I see examples of people being short with each other on social media, especially from people that say that they're new to Colorado, and they're traumatized because they've never been around a fire before. Well, there's a lot of people, and I've actually, I don't want to get into telling stories, but I actually met somebody, right, whose ancestors are from a natural backdrop in the Middle East that looks a lot like Colorado. But since he's lived in Colorado, since its parents brought him here, he's never actually camped because of the degree that Denver has domesticated him. Now, I want you to wrap your mind around that. Think about people whose ancestors are like, they're close to the earth, like the Native Americans, of different ethnicities around the world that migrate to America. And they can become so absorbed with the Denver experience that they forget about the world outside of their little ivory towers. For the very first time, people are hearing about Costilla County in Denver. You can even say that's a little bit sad. Just a little bit. I'm Alex Hainster. I'll keep you updated with current events and where the fire goes from here.